Hey there, ASAP family. Welcome to this week's extended hot tip. So the title of this one is More Productive, More Successful. So this week I'm offering you the best tips on how to be more productive and more successful. Now, this is 7 things that we know that work for artists when it comes to managing time. Now, for those of you that are new to our world, if you go to our YouTube channel and you look at the hot tips, or you go to our website and you look at all the hot tips, you'll see that there's quite a few that are on productivity and quite a few that are on time management. So I guess what this one is here we are, we're able to talk about the 7 that I know absolutely work for independent artists. There's lots of things you can try, and if you've ever Googled time management or productivity, you know that there's tons and tons of help out there, which is awesome. But what I want to do in this one is to cut to the chase and give you the 7 things that we know out of everything work the best for independent artists. So as an independent artist, next to your talent, your time is really the most important thing you have. Yep. So of all the resources you've got, the talent, absolutely, you wouldn't be an artist without it. But the next resource you've got is your time. So being able to effectively manage your time means being more productive. And being more productive, because you're an artist in business, is ultimately being more successful. So a lot of artists come to us, and the central thing they need to work on is time. Managing their time, productivity, how do I schedule more time? How do I manage my time so that I have time to be in the studio creating art, have time to do the admin, right? So how do you manage all of this? Well, there are some overarching habits that we just never learned as artists. No one ever told us that there were things that business people learn or small business people learn, but no one ever told us as artists. So that's what I want to do with you, right? Because I want every artist to be successful. And absolutely, of all the stuff we do, one of the key principles to success, being an independent artist, is being productive and effective with your time. Okay? So I think you get why this is important. Now, the incubator is 10 years old, right? We have seen which things work, and we have seen which things don't work when it comes to managing time as an independent artist, right? So here we go. Here are the top 7 things that I know from 10 years of working with hundreds of artists absolutely work, okay? Number 1, absolutely, without doubt, if you do nothing else from this entire time forward, please do this. The number 1 thing you need to do is to schedule and use deadlines. So there's a thing that you might have learned that's called Parkinson's Law. Don't know if you have. Parkinson's Law states that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. So if you say, look, I'm going to set aside a day for this, it's going to take a day. If you say, I'm going to put half a day toward this, it's going to happen in half a day, right? So that's the critical thing. But there's 2 parts to this. If it's not scheduled, it's not going to happen. So really, if you want to be the ultimate awesome time manager, you throw away your to-do list, and before it gets on a to-do list, it should never get on it just gets put in the diary. Schedule everything. If you've set aside time for that thing to be done, then it's in there. At least it's going to get started. The thing about the to-do list, right, is there's nothing that forces that to actually get started. It's up to you. But when you start scheduling it, you're committed, right? I had a coach that I worked with for a long time, and we would have a great coaching session, and then he would say, okay, John Paul, so what are you going to do? And I would say, this is what I'm going to do. And he'd say, so when have you scheduled that? And I'd say, oh yeah. He's like, no, get out your calendar right now and block out that time. And I can tell you my productivity improved immensely when I realized how there's a big difference between it being on a loosey-goosey, eventually I'll get to that list, versus it's in the diary and it's got some time for it. Okay? So the second part to that is to give yourself a deadline. You're going to put it in your diary, which means you're going to have a beginning time and an ending time. So give every task a deadline. What a task ultimately should be able to be completed in one sitting. The ultimate task is a 30-minute one. But, as artists, we have pretty good ability to focus. We can sustain our focus and our concentration longer than most. So, probably 90 minutes would be the outside. So typically, when I do this, I plunk things in a 90-minute chunk. And then there are things I've learned over time that are going to take longer. But I block the time. So give yourself a deadline. So you put it in the calendar, the diary, whatever you use, and then give it a deadline. When you hit that deadline, you're an adult. You can decide to extend that deadline, or you can decide you're going to leave it for now and come back to it later, but you schedule it in. Okay? So that's the number one thing, scheduling and deadlines. And truly, that's the thing that's made the biggest difference for artists. So if you do nothing else, if you stop watching right now, just schedule everything, every task, and give it a deadline. Okay, the second tip is do an hour's work before you check your email. Yep, seriously. I know it's a very hard habit to break, right? It's the first thing that you look at in the morning. However, when you do that, other people start to control your day, right? What you're saying is you're opening yourself to the needs of others before doing the needs that you have and your business. You need to drive your day. To be more productive and more successful, you have to make the decisions. You have to be in control. You have to drive the day, right? When you sit down and you open your email first, you let everyone else start to control your day. You find a dozen things that need to get done, right? And then sometimes this is going to eat up half a day, right? And then, it could make the whole day slide because you're responding to the needs of others before the thing that you want to achieve, right? And then you go to bed feeling like you didn't achieve anything. You know those days? Well, this is your business. If this business succeeds or fails, it's going to be on you. So get out of that habit of checking your email first, right? When you get to work, whatever work means, right? That could be when you get to the studio, when you get to the desk, when you get to the office, whatever determines I'm now at work, please, please, please resist the urge to check the email. What I want you to do instead is look at what you need to get done today. Then take the most important thing and do at least an hour's work on that one task. You've got to start your day in control of your day. After an hour doing what you know is important, what you want to achieve, then you can check your emails. Because you're in a way better headspace to decide when and how to deal with the dozen new things. Okay? So that's tip number 2. Do at least an hour's work. Well, do an hour. Do an hour's work before you check your email. Okay? Number 3. Third thing that works for artists absolutely is to write your to-do list the night before. This is a really simple one, but it is ridiculously effective. I know. It is. It really is. It's ridiculously effective. Because what happens is we get into the office or we get into the studio, we check our emails, right? Then we check in with others, then we have that impromptu meeting, then eventually we realize that we're hungry, so we go grab some lunch, and then we realize that it's afternoon and we need to get some work done, oh my God, so we make a list of a couple of things, but by then the day is slipping away, okay? So what you have to do is to get in the habit of writing a to-do list before you go to bed, right? Or you look in your calendar and see what's scheduled for the day, if you've done tip number 1. So doing this just has to be part of your routine, right? You put on your PJs, you brush your teeth, right? Then you write out your to-do list or you check your schedule for tomorrow. It sets your brain to achieve that. The last conscious thoughts you have is what you're going to achieve tomorrow. What's scheduled for tomorrow. It starts your unconscious mind preparing you for that. So there's a hot tip we have about how this works with the sleep learning technique. It really, really works. Oh, I think I might have lied to you. I think that's actually inside the Artist Transformation School course. Don't think there's a hot tip on it. But anyway, the idea is that you want your unconscious mind to be supporting you. So you go through this list. Right? You also know what it's like. You're laying in bed and then your brain is trying to remind you of things. You're like, oh shit, I forgot that. No, I forgot that. No, I should do that. What? Useless. Do that in your conscious waking state right before you go to sleep. Here's all the things that I'm going to do. Here's what's on the schedule. Oh, right. I need to sneak this in. I need to schedule time for this. Do it before you go to sleep. Now, warning, and in fairness, it's going to take you 30 days to make this a habit. Right? You're going to try it. Oh, I don't know. You're going to have issues about it. Some nights you're going to forget. But it takes 30 days to form a habit. 30 to 45 days to form a habit. So please, just trust me. This absolutely works. I wouldn't be giving you this tip if there weren't hundreds of artists for whom this works. So please do it. But commit to it for 30 to 45 days. And then we'll just become a habit. And you'll feel more productive and ultimately more successful. Okay? Number 4, focus on what you do best. Right? If you do the things that you're good at and you're skilled at, you'll find that you do them really quickly and really efficiently. But if you deviate and you do something that isn't your core focus, right, you'll find that it's going to take you longer, it's going to linger. So consider hiring someone who does this thing for a living. Because chances are they're going to do it faster and better than you. So sure, it's going to cost you a little bit of money. But if you think about your time and what your time is worth as this valuable resource, you're going to be way, way further ahead. So focus on what you do best, hire others to do the other stuff. Okay? Number 5, on that theme, hire a virtual assistant. You know, we were slow in suggesting this for other artists, but it's something that I'm really an advocate for because I know the huge difference that it's made in my business, right? If you're in your business, doing it all alone, then you're making that number 1 mistake that independent artists make, and that's doing it alone, right? Look, the world has changed. You can hire someone that works for you from anywhere in the world, and that can cost you as little as $6 or $7 an hour. So you can, tip number 4, focus on what you do best, and then get help for the rest. You know, there are cool things. Once you have a virtual assistant and you get used to this, you can build systems for repetitive tasks. We all have, and as we run our business, repetitive tasks. Well, figure out how you do them, how you like them done, and then pass it on so that the task gets done, just not by you. Okay? So consider that one. Tip number 6 is to utilize non-productive time. Okay? So I want you to think about your day or your week. Where are those times when your arms and legs are busy, but your mind is free? Right? Because you can be using these periods of time to get a whole bunch of stuff done. So think about your commute, right? You could have your phone read you articles, right? If you use Pocket app. Or you could take the opportunity to return some calls. Or you could take that time to check in with clients, right? Or you could listen to a podcast and learn something while you commute. So commuting is one of those non-productive times that you could fill doing things that educate you, catch up on things. So look for those periods of, and I think it's a good rule to say, when are there times where my arms and legs are busy, but my mind is available? Okay? So there are those times. And last but not least, number 7, and this is kind of why we exist and why artists make so much progress when they work with us, is pay for expert advice. If you're running your own business, you need to have a mentor or a coach, right? Someone to help you, making your way, right? Help you along the way. A mentor and a coach, they help you along the way, right? Because whatever it is that you want to achieve in your life, there is someone out there who's probably done it or has experience in helping others to get where you want to go, right? So rather than go through the process by trial and error, you should find someone that can help you along the way, okay? For example, there are various things that we need to learn how to do, right? So we could learn SEO and we could stumble and try to figure that out, or we could pay for expert advice and have someone who's an expert at SEO come in, help us figure out the system so that we don't learn by trial and error. That's ridiculous. How many hours can you spend watching free YouTube videos? Come on. There are experts, there are coaches, there are mentors. Get them. It's a very good return on your investment. Okay? Okay, so let's review. These have been the top 7 things that we know work for artists. Absolutely, without question, these are the ones that artists come back to us and say, oh, that was such good advice. Wow, I did this. So we've got stories. People tell us that these things really, really work and make the difference. So we all need to be more productive and more successful. And trust me when I tell you that that comes down to managing your time more effectively. So let's review these 7. Scheduling, putting everything in your diary, and giving everything a deadline. Scheduling and deadlines was number 1. Number 2 was do an hour's work before you check your email. Number 3 was write your to-do list the night before. Number 4 was focus on what you do best. Number 5 was hire a virtual assistant. Number 6 was utilize non-productive time. And number 7 was pay for expert advice. So what I'd like you to do this week is I'd like you to go find in the ASAP group in the Facebook group, go advertise that you're looking for an accountability buddy. Put your hand up and say, based on that extended hot tip about more productive and more successful, I'm looking for an accountability buddy for this project, right? So you're going to say, let's pick 3. So you pick 3 of the 7, and your partner is going to pick 3 of the 7. And you're going to check in with each other. How is that going? How are you doing in managing this time better? How is it being more effective? Because you're all creative, independent artists. So I know that none of you are going to do it exactly the way I tell you. So you're going to invent your own clever, creative way to do this. But take one of these tips. Figure out how it works for you and work on it. Then a second and a third. So I want you to pick 3, right? You're in this to really make massive improvement about your business and your arts practice. So pick 3 of these things. And I want you to pick one that you go, yep, that's a no-brainer. I can do that easily. Pick a second one that you go, ooh, I know that's important. That's going to be a real bit of a challenge. And the third one I want you to pick one that you go, that's ridiculous. Or that won't work for me. Pick one that's easy. Pick one that's going to be a bit of a challenge. And pick one that you just absolutely, you have no interest in. Because that resistance to do that third one could have some really interesting things that get revealed to you as you start to apply that tip. Okay? So that's what I'm asking you to do this week. Get yourself an accountability buddy, because the more you start to lean in and share in this group and get help from others in this group, the more that you partner up to do things, the more that you take any of these extended hot tips or any of the advice that you get when we have the interviews once a month, any of that stuff, grab a partner and say, let's try to apply this, right? But you've got to lean in, right? No one's going to come and help you apply 3 out of these 7 tips. It's not going to happen. Magically, I don't have artist guardian angels that will come and say, come on, let's do tip number 1. It's up to you. You have to lean in, you have to commit, you have to try to make this happen. So that's the idea of all of these extended tips, is that I'm giving you something to try for this week. And, if you looked at the kahuna, the laws of the kahuna, if you remember those, effectiveness is the measure of truth. I'm telling you that these 7 work. You need to see if they're effective for you. Because when the tip becomes effective for you, you believe that it's true, right? There's a great saying that says, if I tell you what to do, you could doubt me. If you do it and then you tell me that it worked for you, you believe it and you've made the change. And that's what we're after. It's for you to make these big changes. So I want you to pick 3, get a buddy to work on them with, and then invent them. Find the ways that they're going to work for you. You can trust me. We wouldn't be in this business still 10 years later if these things didn't work. So these 7 do work. They absolutely work. Okay? So, if you pick hire a virtual assistant, or you pick pay for expert advice, for example, you don't do that every day, right? So I get that. But some of the others are habits, and they need an accountability buddy. But if you're going pay for expert advice and you're going, I really need a mentor, I'm working with these guys, I've got, you've got me as a coach, maybe you need a mentor. Somebody who's a little bit further along in your particular arts field. Okay? But your accountability buddy can say, well, what are you doing to find that mentor? What did you do this week? What did you do the next week to find that mentor? How are you going? Okay? So that's the idea about your accountability coach. All right. So that's it. That was the extended hot tip on more productive, more successful. See you later.